Oh.
So we're starting today the dinner from Pesach, Shoshim and Kaidem Achad. And we'll start with Simon Kuv Zayin, Dinner Chodesh Nissen. It's Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, so it's Kitzur, but there's certain things over here that are more barichas than Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch in the first Simmer Tov Chav Tes. So I'll refer back and forth. But let's first read over here what it says over here. Kol Chodesh Nissen ein Eimim Tachton. The entire month of Nissen we don't say Tachton. And when we say we don't say Tachton, so the Alter Rebbe said that means also you would come in a Seach, and the other part is Tfilu David by Tfilu David, and also Shabbos you don't say Overachten, also because we don't say Tachton. V'loi Tzaddik Adin, that's a Chas V'Shalom. There's a Levaya, so by Levaya you say Tzaddik Adin. There's a whole Tfilah that you say, so that we don't say. Ve'ein oimim tzekoscha b'Shabbos b'mincha. You also don't say tzekoscha because that has to do with Tachton. That has to do with the Misa of David and Moshe that took place in Yoy. And then he says, Noigim b'Rish Chodesh v'Eilach Rikas b'Chol Yoim Pashas Anasi Shekabay B'Yoim. The Nesiim, today's Parsha starts Vahi B'Yem Shmini. So by Yom Shmini, there was the Chanukas on Mizbeach. And for the Chanukas on Mizbeach, every Nasi brought a whole battery of kabbonos. Even though when you read in the Parsha, so it seems like everyone brought the same thing, and everyone had like the Ruach HaKodesh to bring what the other person brought. But in Medrash, there's a big arichas in Medrash Shabbat where he says that each one had different kabbonos. The notes of each kabban, each day had different. It wasn't just that he was copying the other one. Ubiyayim Yed Gimel, Kaidim Pashas Baloischa, At Kein Osas Amanaida, Shu Neged Shevet Levi. Now, over here he doesn't explain it so much. Why don't you say Tachton in the whole month of Nisan? So the Alter Rebbe says that we don't fast, and we don't say Tachton the whole month of Nisan, because the kabbonos, and he makes a cheshbon like this. There were 12 Nesiim. So starting with the Shchedish, every Nasi was Makriv a different day, and every Nasi that was Makriv was a Yontif by him the day that he was Makriv. So then after that, so that covers you from Rosh Chodesh till Yud Beis, including Yud Beis. Then the Alter Rebbe says over here, Ve'en kamponu Eloyim Yud Gimel Shohaya B'Yontif. You had nothing special to it. Now it came next day's Erev Pesach. Erev Pesach again, you makar v'korban Pesach. So you're not allowed to work that day from the afternoon, from Chatzos, and it was a Yontif, a makar v'korban Pesach. If someone, Chas v'Sholom, is sitting Shiva, let's say, and it comes to Erev Pesach, so he gets up by Chatzos because that's when they will mark the Korban Pesach. If it would be on a regular Erev Shabbos, it sits Shiva till 2 hours before Shabbos. So you covered from the beginning till Yud Beis. But Yud Gimel, he says, there's nothing happened on Yud Gimel. That's what he said. Then he says, you take the Erev Pesach Yontif Chol Yisrael Shamakriven HaPesach. That's Be'en Kamponu El Yom Yigimel Shohaya BaYontif V'Achakach Ches Yimei HaPesach. Then comes the 8 days of Pesach, and he says Haim Yom Tovim In Kain Yotzer Reiva Chodesh Bikdusha, so the most of the month already had Yantiv Dike a heiligkeit to it. Lefirach Noigen Lasses Kula Kein Yantiv. Therefore, we make the whole Chodesh like Yantiv. Ve'ein Misanim, and you don't fast. Okay. Alter Rebbe says that the 13th day is ponu. There's nothing special about it, right? There's an interesting thing in the big Shulchan Aruch. There's Agos on the side from the Sam Sefer, and the Sam Sefer says that the 13th was also a special day. And he says two things that were special about the 13th. He says is that their kabbonis that they were makriv were Kolbim Shlomim. A Kolbim Shlomim is nechol l'shnei yomim v'layla echad. In other words, the Nasi that brought the Kolbim on the 12th day, he brought it during the day. So he could eat the Kolbim, he could eat it that day, he could eat it at night, and he could also eat it the next day. So it was a part of it's connected to the Kolbim from the 13th day. Kumta is that there is already a yontif. It wasn't only a special thing when they were mocked of the Kolbim, but when they ate the Kolbim, that was yontif by them. So you have already it covers the 13th day. Then he says another interesting thing. He says, when did the Malachim come to visit Avram? The Malachim came to visit Avram, it was Pesach. That's why he said, Gushi vasi ugois, make ugois. The whole Inyan of why, Rashi said, why Gushi si ugos? Because it was Pesach. So they made matzah. So the whole Inyan, why do we taka, today there's two kind of matzahs. There's round, the matzah you eat a whole year are a square matzah. Okay? And even in matzah's gufa, in shmura matzah gufa, there's a machine shmura matzah. The Vina Kehila that used to be in Williamsburg, they didn't go to a bakery. They held that it was okay to make a machine matzah. It was it wasn't a machine matzah like the Manischewitz or Harvard's Margaretten. It was a small, but even today, you go into the stores, not in Crown Heights maybe, but in Borough Park, they sell hand shmura matzah and they sell machine shmura matzah. The hand shmura matzah is made in a square. Why is it made in a square? Because you have to know how they make matzah. The way they make matzah is there's a machine that mixes the dough and it makes it into a dough. Then the dough is fed into an oven. It wasn't not a real oven, but it's an oven from under. And it goes along a line, like an assembly line. It goes a long sheet that they can't make it round. So the machine brings it out till the end, and at the end it comes off a baked matzah, and they separate it. They separate the baked matzah, so it's a square. They can't make it round. We not only don't use machine matzah. The Rebbe Rashab was against machine matzah. We didn't use machine matzah when they instituted machine matzah. It's made with shmura meshas ksida. We'll learn about that later. That the veitz is watched that it shouldn't get wet from the time it was cut. There's the regular matzah that you see they buy for Pesach. From Eretz Yisrael comes matzah in boxes. That is shmura meshas tchina. That only is watched from the time that they made flour from it. That once they made flour, they watch and no water should come on the flour. But to watch and no water should come from the time that it was cut, and you have just the kernels, and from all that time, and it's a long time in between the cutting of the matzah and making cutting of the flour, the wheat, and making the kernels. Then they put away bags full of kernels, and then a later date they grind it. So our shmura is shmura mishas ketzira, from the time that it was cut in the field. That's back in August sometime. That's when it gets cut. The machine matzah that they have is also shmura mishas ketzira. That's not the problem, but it's not a round matzah. The question is, what's the inyan of a round matzah? You want shmura mishas ketzira gesundheit. It's a chumrah. But why does it have to be round? Why can't it be square? Especially today, I mean, if there's not a heater, but today, when in the bakery over here, when they bake, the matzahs look like for the States, the way they're cut with different corners, and everything. Every woman has her way of doing it. But we do, the idea is round matzah. Why a round matzah? So there's a sefer. There was a guy in his name was Yehuda Assad. Yehuda Assad made a sefer, and he writes that the mocha for round matzah is from Avraham Avinu, because he said ugais, ushiv asi ugais. What's ugas? Ugas means round. Like the Gemara says, there was Chayni Amago, that he prayed for rain. They asked him to pray for rain. So what did he do? He said, the Gemara says in Tainus, Og Uga, he made a circle, and he stood in the circle, and he said, I'm not going to move from here till you give rain. So Mele says, Gushi Vasi Ugais, he told them to make round matzah. What's the idea of round matzah? Why did Avram told them to make round matzah? I think Rabbi Yehuda also says this also. It says that's not mine. But I remember, but I don't remember if he said. In the days of Avraham Avinu, they used to make pointy bread. In other words, there were a lot of avodah zaros, and you wanted to make your bread was a staple food item that you lived on, and you based on the pasuk of Chumash. I mean, the Goyim also. So they say that the food comes from God. So you want to show someone that had the mashal, let's say, 3 gods, 5 gods. They had all different avodah zaros. So they would make a pointy bread with different points, and the point represented the amount of bread, gods that you served, and you thank your God for giving you the bread. Avraham Avinu came along and he said that there's only one God. There's not the whole. So he made round to show that there's no he's Malakah and he's Saiviv Kulam, like they say Chassidus. So for them come to so Avraham came. So this isn't the Chassam Sofer. This is all in the Rabbi Yehuda Assad. So now the Malachim came to Avraham, and it was Pesach. That's what he said. We'll see you guys. If you read a story in Chumash, the story begins what Avraham is sitting Pesach oil, K'chaim Mayim, and came Malachim. Okay, why was he sitting Pesach K'chaim Mayim? Because he wanted to get guests. He was looking for guests. He wasn't looking to sit outside to get some fresh air. He was looking for guests. And guests didn't come. So the Eibishter sent the Malachim. The Malachim came, one came to Levaka as Avram. Why did Avram need a beaker, a visit? Because Rashi says it was Shlishi L'Milasai. Right? It was the first day. So if it was Shlishi L'Milasai, so what day was Avram's bris? If 15 and bat is 1 and 14 is 2 and Yud Gimel is 3, come days that the bris was on Yud Gimel. So some Sefer says the first Eid that ever got Gemalit and introduced the whole concept of Mil and Klal Yisrael was Avraham Avinu. That's called Brisa Shel Avraham Avinu. That was a big yontif. So that's why we celebrate on Yud Gimel and we don't say Tachton. That's how. So it's not just like that. The Rebbe said that it was Pono, there's nothing happened, but some Sefer comes up with these two things that are special also about Yud Gimel, and therefore the whole month we don't say Tachton. Let's just go further over here. Aim is by a fill of tinus yotzeit. There's people that when have a yotzeit they fast. So not everyone has that minig, especially if you go to the oil. So the Rebbe writes that you should drink something before you go, so you can't fast. That's for some of the reason why others go to the cemetery on Tisha B'Av, and Lubavitch they don't have the minig going to the cemetery on Tisha B'Av because you're fasting. That's for some of the reason why not. Aval Tainus Cholim Misanim, but a Tainus Cholim you do fast, because the Gemara says that a Tainus Cholim is good by Bayayim. The Gemara says that the by Bayayim is like Ke'esh L'Neuras, it's like a fire that's put to some type of a material that burns very quick,
Even on Shabbos.
Huh?
Even on Shabbos.
Yeah. The ain't sort of leishev tainus altanisa b'chodesh iyah. And the din is if someone fasts on Shabbos, well, you're allowed to have a fast the tainus, so you have to make up the tainus. You have to fast another day for the tainus. You fast on Shabbos because it has to be by yom, but you have to make it up. But v'bal that in chodesh Nisan, it's not the same isser as fasting on Shabbos. It's just a minig. Therefore, that you're allowed to do, and you don't have to make it up.
Over here. This is this lashon that you just said.
What was that?
No, the Rebbe does have share.
It's yeah. V'abechayrim esanim v'erev Pesach kasher yivuya mitzvah Hashem b'simon kuf yigimel v'chosan v'kala b'yayim chasanot gam kem esanim v'afilu b'Chodesh Nisan. Chodesh Nisan is a psataynis adikim. I think it's the day that Miriam passed away. So maybe it's a special day, so that's why they're allowed to fast that day.
For that day, you have to pay back.
Huh?
For a Chodesh Nisan, you have to pay back.
No, the chosan,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to pay back. Doesn't say he has to pay back.
Say you have to pay back?
No.
No.
Because the inyan of not fasting is only a minig. So that's why it's not a issa. Shabbos Hagadol Mincha, Shabbos Hagadol Mincha, Noigim She'ein Oimer Bochi Nafshi, but we don't say our minhag. We don't say Bochi Nafshi, but other people by Shabbos by Mincha they say Bochi Nafshi. El Avodah Mayina, you read the Haggadah, Lefisha b'Shabbos Hagadol Hoisa Hascholas Hagula V'Anisim. The beginning was on Shabbos Hagadol. The Alter Rebbe explains this in detail already, that when we vowed that the Yidden prepared the shepsel, they had it tied to the bed, and the Goyim, the Mitzrayim asked them, "What is this over here?" And they explained them that we're going to serve Hashem, we're going to make a Korban Pesach, and because they was going to take us out of here, and they went back, and they wanted that they should freely get rid of the Jews, and the Goyim didn't want. So that's why L'Mak Mitzrayim Biv Chayrayim. That L'Mak Mitzrayim Biv Chayrayim. That not only was the Makas B'Chayrim, but L'Mak Mitzrayim Biv Chayrayim. That the B'Chayrim struck the Mitzrayim, and that was all on the 10th of Nisan on Shabbos Haggadah. Incidentally, in the Haggadah, we say over there that Eivisha made 10 makas, and we recognize down so they kinim, and then later it says that Yehuda Nesmem Simonim. The Sachadash Bachab. So Chayre, you don't have to be a Tana like Rabbi Yehuda to figure out such a Rosh Tevis. I mean, he wasn't Machadish anything. You take down, so they is the Tzach Dam Sradei Akinim is the Tzachim. So what was Rabbi Yehuda Mechadish? So the Mefarshim say that there's a machlokes between the Tanakama and Rabbi Yehuda in what was the ikar of Makas B'chayres. Was the ikar of Makas B'chayres that the B'chayrim were killed? Or was the ikar that the B'chayrim killed the Mitzrayim? B'chayre, when he says Dam Sradei Akinim and then Makas B'chayres, so Makas B'chayres means the Makkah that the B'chayrim gave. Comes along Rabbi Yehuda, Naitzam Simonim, he should have said Dam Sradei the Tzaka Dash B'acham. You go Makas B'chayres, you take the Mem. Why did he leave out the Mem and take the base? Because he holds that the Ikar was B'chayres, what the B'chayrim were killed. So Mel, it's a big thing between the Tanakama and Rabbi Yehuda in what was the Makkah, what was the main part of the Makkah? Was it that the B'chayrim killed the Mitzrayim, or that the B'chayrim were killed? So Mel, so that's why we start Avodah Mayinu, and in Shulchan Aruch about giving the Rav gives a drasha on Shabbos HaGadol. That's already, it's not mentioned in Kitzur Shor, but that is Minig Yisrael. Okay.